one does not simply destroy Magnus and Hikaru in the same tournament unless your name is Jose Martinez. He even went on to break chess history in this tournament. All that to come. First we got to look at this absolute walloping. Jose with white kicks off with e4. This is titled Tuesday, aka titillating Tuesday, aka cheating Tuesday, depending who you ask. It's online chess, super grandmasters, and boy do we love it. This is blitz at its finest. The clock time's on the left. Hikaru goes for a Siciliano here, and after knight f3, e6, we get this overpowered move of pawn to c3 here, and this is known as the c3 Sicilian, or to give it its proper name, the Alapin defense, or attack even, but very few people know this. It's named after a French chess playing rabbit currently residing in Strasbourg. Now we see knight to f6 hitting the pawn, bishop d3 covers, knight c6 played, and the bishop just tucks back, preparing to roll the d-pawn. What does Hikaru do? Hits the most explosive square. He's preparing to take en passant, of course. Grandmasters love playing it as much as regular guys. Now we see queen e2 and d5. Hikaru's won the game already. Sets up connect 4. Who cares about the result anymore? He's the real winner, but Jose, not to be outdone, goes e5, kicks back the knight, and d4. Sets up his own version of connect 4, but no good. Hikaru takes, bellowing en passant in his best French accent. Bishop recaptures here, and now this one gets the question mark because he's moving the same piece twice in the opening. Bit of a no-no when you run it through with stock mollusk. What did it want? Well, bishop e7, h6, take care of king e. But now it works out because instead of going bishop c2, very natural, preserve this great attacking piece, we see castles. Oh, makes you wince. Gives up the bishop pair, an amazing bishop at that. Success for Hikaru, but it's interesting. Queen c7 hits the centre, rook e1 covers, bishop e7 very natural, and after bishop f4, yes, black's got the bishops, but look at the pawn structure. This one's kind of crying on c8 here. White's got the space, you know, this epic pawn spearheading an attack, like a Greek hoplite just ahead of the front of the army. But what to do now? How do you intensify the pressure? Bishop d7 is what Hikaru starts with, stacking those clergymen, and knight bd2 comes. Hikaru scared to castle. He should maybe play h6, take control of the g5 square. But instead, what does he do? He picks up his knight on c6 here, and doesn't he know Der Springer on Der Rimmer is a very terrible sucky piece because it doesn't influence the game as much. Now he'd love b3 to weaken c3, then you bring the cannon to blast down here, but Jose too long in the tooth. He goes bishop g5, and actually probably Hikaru should exchange. He doesn't do it because he's scared to weaken the dark squared complex, and so often the grandmasters want to hold on to their bishops. That's why he underdevelops with bishop f8. Dad's like, what the heck is going on here? Starts to feel the pinch because now after this knight hits the center, still Hikaru doesn't do anything like h6 or look to develop a bishop soon, right? He plays rook c8, in some ways natural, but the king's over there like, yo, anyone gonna give me some protection anytime soon? I'm getting kind of drafty. This one's blasting me in the face, and after queen g3, there's the move of a man who just knows where the pieces belong. The pressure starts intensifying. Hikaru goes h6, kicks back the bishop, yes, now goes g6, so ugly, but the queen was pressuring here, and we see some problems starting to emerge on the dark squares. It's Swiss cheese. And how about this for a move? What does Hikaru want next? Well, he wants to brie and cheddar the bishop, right? Hit this pawn, attack it. How would we like to defend? Well, bishop f4 would be very nice. You know, don't move the knights just yet. But then g5 comes. So what does Jose do? He slams forward with h4, takes control of that square, and this is the moment. Kramnik's had enough. How is the guy seeing that move? He's getting ready to do the procedure. No, not really. We're not going to do that clip once again in this video. Some people love it. Some people are like, well, you just get on with the show. Now we see the bishop, fee and cheddar onto the diagonal, pawn under fire, and bishop f4 enabled, of course. Opening the rook, over protecting, no g5, very beautiful. How should Hikaru fight back here? Well, these are some of the top moves on the board. You know, king a4, obviously overpowered. Queen b6, a nice idea to hit b2. The problem is, it's so tough to castle now. Look at the pieces lined up at the king side here. So what do we see instead? None of those moves played here by Hikaru. I mean, this is really, truly atrocious. He goes knight c6. I'm sorry if you're easily offended. And look at the problem. The bishop's no longer on b5. You can hop, you can pick up tempo, you can check the king. But Jose does not do that. This is absolutely awesome. He plays knight f5. What a move. Thunderbolt from the blue, hits an unprotected bishop, but okay, what's going on? Well, if this pawn captures, the queen takes the piece here, you win it right back, you're invading. That's easy enough to understand. And if the e pawn captures, then there's this move, e6 simply. You open up the bishop on the queen, really nice stuff. That's why it sat better on b6. And after it moves somewhere, then you take, double check, you know, you're luring the king out. I mean, it'd have to take anyway, or you drop a rook. And this is just a nice position for white, right? You haven't even sacked material. You're attacking, king's in the center, weak pawn, so on and so forth. Really nice lines. So Hikaru plays bishop f8, very ugly move, and now we see the knight hop forward, a bone in the throat. The octopus is chopped off, approved of by Stoctopus. Now we see pawn recaptures, the queen slides all the way back, desperate to cover this dark squared complex, but to no avail, because Jose explodes the position with pawn c4, and look at the square he just vacated. Now you don't want a castle, you lose a pawn, but it's the top move here of Stockpike, and here if you leave it, you're going to take, and of course the pawn can't recapture, excuse me, or the king's under fire. So Hikaru comes up with takes here, and now the knight does not recapture. This is just awesome attacking prowess. Instead, knight e4 comes, a more central square looking at f6. This is the really key point. So Hikaru gets his running shoes on. You know, again, if you castle, this one's caving in, courtesy of the bishop. So king f8 played, and now we see the switcheroo, whap bang wallop, the rook under fire here. It's absolute devastation on the dark squares. You know, what happens if you say go rook h7, hold here, jump from the attack, well then knight f6, rook under fire, say you defend, well you're stepping into all the nasty checks, right? You know, none of it's any good. Let's run it back. What if you go king g8, cover the rook, still check, still you're running into trouble. This even leads to a mate, you know, like this or like this. So many problems. Excuse me, can't find my voice. So what do we see in the game here? A very ugly move. Ben Feingold would not approve. Pawn to f6. Absolutely disgusting. Dad ashamed of his army here. Queen and rook split. The pawn's awful on the 6th rank there, and the knight can simply crash right through. Jose ripping Hikaru to shreds here. King f7 played to connect some stuff, and real simple chess. Just takes, queen recaptures, rook still connected, thankfully, but queen takes here. Pressure on e6, plus the d6, extra pawn is being felt. We see rook c to e8, covering the backwards e6 pawn, or weak, lonesome pawn I should say. Rook a d1, the cannon's blasting in the centre, and Hikaru runs for the hills, runs for his life. A check forces it to the corner, and before Hikaru can do anything else, Jose starts running the queenside juicers. Epic chess from him. The bishop under fire, defended, and sets up the battery. Hikaru making more weaknesses here. It's absolutely epic. Epic Stilton. Rook f5 now played, and possibly it looks for this. But watch this. a4 just ignores it, and now if you go rook d5, trying to pick up this pawn here, well, the queen can defend from f4. What if you now go e5, get rid of that one? Well, now you can switcheroo once again. You can just never quite pick up the pawn. Here's a sample line. You're checking, you're winning a rook, or you're checking with the bishop and winning a queen because it has to give itself up. Real brutal stuff. Rook d5 not working, so Hikaru goes a6, very meek, and the queen just slides onto the dark squared complex once more. Such elegant control from Jose. This is incredible chess. Hikaru goes e5, gets some space, weakens some squares though. He's looking for knight d4, b5 on the board, encourages that move. Hikaru gleefully springs forward. That one's under fire here, however, it's no good because there's this incredible attacking move. Queen c7, and the queen's just going to fall from the board unless you take. You know, for rook f7, no good. You can swap, and bang, there's a tactic at the end of the line. These are just the recurring problems all the time from Hikaru. None of his pieces on the right squares. So he takes here, allows the pawn to take, picks up this one, desperate to try and cajole that one. Is that the word? Cajole? Carole? Can't remember. Now we see rook d7 check, absolute invasion, getting kebabbed on the 7th rank, and the king steps back, but this one just intensifying the pressure. I wondered about pawn e4, laterally defend the knight, looks aggressive, but you can actually sack the rook, sack the exchange. This one recaptures, and then you slam down with rook d8. The pawn's following, or capturing like this. There's no good, it's no problem. No problem, it's no good, other way around. Now we see knight a7, so it's the best move, covering that c8 square. Hikaru now getting absolutely killed as the rook crashes through. This knight stumbles back to c8 and rook d8. We see these back rank problems supported by the pawn. I mean, this is just incredible chess by Jose on seconds. He's on fire since he played Vladimir Kramnik. Hikaru desperately stumbles back to cover, but rook b8 hits the knight, it saves itself, and now pick your poison. So many ways to finish the game. Bishop h6 was chosen by Jose, and this forced resignation. You know, if you move, well, you're obviously losing a rook. If you take first, then you can do this. The same problems exist. Where does the rook go? It's going to drop. No good. There's a queen going through. This is one sample line, and of course that's overwhelming. Jose takes down Hikaru, and Magnus goes 11 for 11. Absolutely unprecedented, unless your name's Magnus or Hikaru. What is going on? Hope you enjoyed, and in case you missed the Magnus game from this same tournament against Jose, check out the video on screen. Cheers.